Hey everyone, this is going to be the last Devlog of the year, so I wanted to do something a little special before we ended 2024. And the project has slowly been reaching towards pre-alpha, and this feels like the home stretch. Now before I dive into what I'm cooking, let me take a second to thank my Patreon supporters. Your support has helped me attain some models and hardware for Vana'Gear development that I wouldn't have been able to attain otherwise. And again, thank you so much for your support. And to everyone else out there watching, have a great holiday season and a happy new year. Now on with the devlog. And let's start this one out with a, hey, my name is Cecil, and I'm the lead dev working on Vana'Gear. Now, years ago, before I started working with Unreal Engine, I was working or training to become a union trade plumber. And I think around my third year working as a trade plumber, I think I was at the Renaissance Waverly Hotel next to the Brave Stadium. Anyways, doesn't matter. I suffered a ruptured disc injury, which luckily, at the time, was handled by workers' comp. After I recovered and went through a lot of physical therapy, the doctor that was working with me at the time told me I wouldn't be able to do plumbing for long and that I should probably look into I should look into changing careers. So I started online classes to become a software engineer. And after a year and a half, give or take, another 2 discs ended up rupturing. This time that were not covered under workers' comp. I also didn't have insurance, so it was kind of like the worst time for it to happen. 2 more years of schooling to go before I could get my degree, but couldn't afford to pay for the classes anymore, so I had to drop that as well. I had some funds to live off of for about a year, give or take, so I began a routine where I would wake up, exercise bike, learn Unreal Engine, and exercise again. And after a year, the game wasn't where I wanted it to be. And it needs some bug fixing, some polishing. It needed a lot of work before I felt I could release it. So I sold my car for a little bit more funds so I could buy an electric bike, which would allow me to make some additional funds. If you're wondering why I didn't use the car, I couldn't be in a car for that long without my back starting to seize up. And being on a bike just for some reason was a lot easier for me. Can't explain why. It was just easier being in the position of leaning forward than it was just leaning back. But with the bike, I started door dashing at lunch and night every day on that e-bike to pay the bills while I worked with Unreal. I learned what speed the bike needed to be at in pedal assist to get the most miles and did that. I think I got around 40 to 60 miles every single day. Then came release day, and to keep a really long story short, there was a couple of bugs where people would just lose their runs. It would hurt new player experiences sometimes, and it was really rare occurrences. Still, very bad. So I spent the next couple of months taking my time, fixing the game, talking with a couple of players, implementing some bug fixes and changes that they wanted to see, until eventually, after a lot of time, I felt the game was in a good place that I could just walk away from it. And that's what I did. I moved on to the next big goal, the thing that I really wanted to do. What I spent the whole first year and a half of my time working on and learning was Unreal Engine, so I could start working on this and start learning everything that I needed to learn to actually just get this up and running. So that's what I did. The goal would be investing the next 5+ years of my life working on one singular project, Vana'Gear, doing everything I could to make sure that I could replicate the combat experience and the teamwork that you would get when you would play Final Fantasy XI back in the day. Being able to talk with a black mage so he could magic burst onto a skill chain that you were working with a dragoon inside of your party outside of Volcrum Dunes, just to kill lizards really quickly so that you could potentially get to Quiffham Island by the end of the week. You know, that's the gameplay experience that I want to try to replicate. And that's where Vana'Gear came from. So, for 2025, I want to work on the story and characters inside of Vana'Gear. And I felt this was the perfect devlog to introduce myself especially since I made myself a Mocap helmet. And as you can see, this thing is held together with some Epoxy and AliExpress GoPro accessories. Now, I did buy a cheap action cam to supplement a GoPro. If you wanted to, you can also use your camera or on your iPhone or your Android, whatever you wanted to do. If you wanted to replicate something like this, it cost me less than $100. It's super rigid, super strong, and it also has this nice little ratcheting head adjustment, so it can actually hold your head in place as well as the chin strap. So it actually works pretty well for mocap. Let me show you guys. Let me put this puppy on. Hola, how's it going? This thing is pretty cool. So as you can see, it kind of tracks my head really well. If I want to do some action scenes, I can tighten it up a little bit more, get my hair out of there, try to get this going, and then I can really move my head, you know? Now, there are some jitters, of course, but one of the cool things is Vana'Gear now allows you to bring in facial animations and smooth out some of the rough edges that you get when you use a setup like this. So, for all the poor brethrens out there, rejoice, because now we have a pretty good solution, and hopefully y'all got those indie licenses from Vana'Gear earlier in January. Anyways, let me take this off, and I'll go ahead and shut it off. Go. Perfect. And as we talked about the mocap helmet, I'm going to show y'all some facial animations that it does, or at least how the software looks when it's actually processing everything into the CSV file that it's going to create. So to process this footage into a CSV file, we simply download the latest release of Landmarker Link from GitHub. Shout out to Quan for making the repo. As you can see, we click on the releases, we download the zip file. Once we have the zip file, simply unzip it into its own little folder, open that folder up, go inside of the Landmarker Link folder inside of that, and then simply run the exe. Once you run the exe, it'll open up a command prompt, ask you a couple of questions. Go ahead and just answer them. Do you want head tracking? For my purposes, no. And do I want symmetric eye tracking? Yeah, for my purposes, I do at the moment, for at least this character. And then we'll grab the video file right here. It will run through each frame, previewing each value, and then afterwards, once it's done, we'll have a nice little CSV file in the original folder that we grabbed the video file from. And then boom, we're done. So now we go to the videos, and we should have a nice little CSV file right here called whatever our title is, blendshape_data.csv, and that's it. Now let's talk a little bit more about the helmet itself. Could I have made this look a little bit better than it does? Sure, and I plan to clean it up with some spray paint at a later date, but as far as functionality is concerned, it works better than I could have ever hoped. Now, if you're interested in the parts list, it's in the description of the video, but let me go over the prices of everything before you go down there and check everything out. First of all, the helmet. I went with an extra large, which is $33, but the large and every other size below it are $27, so the price could fluctuate on your needs and your head size. The strap mount for the top of the helmet, right here, is $10. Gorilla 2-part epoxy 2-pack was another $10. Now, I ended up using only one bottle, and I found that you can get them at Walmart for roughly $6 a piece, and I think the lowest I ever saw was $4. So depending on that, your price could also drop a little bit lower. And now on the back of the helmet, I have 48 pieces, 1/4 ounce wheel weights. These were $7, and these are to offset the weight of the phone or GoPro, and then you can adjust them as needed. So if you're using a phone, you might need more wheel weights at the back of the helmet just to offset the weight a little bit more to account for the battery and everything else. So start small, work up, and then I added some epoxy over top of the wheel weights and the sides just to help them stay there longer, because adhesive pads tend to wear out over time, and I want them to really stay there for the long term. And then of course the arms, you get the 3-in-1 curved extension arms for action cans for a nice $9, and you can really, I'd probably find these even cheaper, probably like $6 to $7 if you want to get the ones that don't use as much plastic. And weirdly enough, all of that equals a nice $69 for a makeshift mocap helmet. Nice. Now this doesn't include the price of the metal rods, because honestly these were just an old Swiffer mop handle rod that I just chopped up with a sawzall. This sawzall. I plan to show more with some behind the scenes, capturing story content in future devlogs, so stay tuned for that. Now let's take a look at some things I've been making for Vana'Gear itself. I've managed to complete the animations and abilities for 2 more enemies. The first one we'll be looking at is a wolf. This guy is a powerhouse that demands isolation or attention. Under 50% HP, the wolf will cry out in desperation, granting himself a huge evasion boost while also linking any wolf in the surrounding area onto the player who has the most aggro. Another ability the wolf has is Howling Intimidation, weakening the player's strength depending on the level and BP at which it was used. The last 2 abilities are weapon skills that can open up reactions for other enemies linked onto the player to close. One of the abilities shows up much less than the other. It's called Moonlight Great Bite. It inflicts a movement speed debuff while also dealing intense damage to the target player. Wolf packs will be a thing to look out for while roaming the plains, so stay tuned for that. Speaking of things to look out for, wasps and their hives. I spent a little too much time modeling a hive from a rock, and my time might have better been spent building smaller faces of hives and then combining them into a bigger one, but I'm very happy with the final result. So if you notice any of these out in the distance and need some wasp hive chips, head towards one and you'll encounter one of these, a man-eating wasp. These enemies have mutated into quite the killers since the gods fell. They have the ability to heal when weakened through the pollination ability. One of the most notable features of these insects though is the ability to spawn shadows that absorb 1 attack apiece. And the amount of shadows they spawn will depend on their level and BP amount. The shadows spawned are handled by a shadow actor that can be used with any actor type. I feel pretty good about that. It's a universal actor that, again, can be used by any character or model in the game. They need a baked mesh and a particle effect, and then they can spawn the shadow actor at will. Wasps can also use Kamikaze once in their life. This is an AoE ability akin to Bomb Toss, with the likelihood the wasp might fail and die due to using this. The last 2 abilities wasps have access to are Sting Shot and Triple Sting. Fairly normal damage weapon skills that can be used to open or close reactions on players that have the most aggro. One of the final things I want to show off today is another sword weapon skill that I added called Bubba Blade. This skill is unlocked when the player reaches 5 skill with the sword and can close a reaction off Dual Slash or other land-based weapon skills. But I need to get the party system working to test this properly. Speaking of testing things properly, and last but not least, I've managed to get 2 little mini PCs that I'm going to be running the servers off of. I'm going to have basically all of the microservices for most things on one mini PC, and then I'm going to be hosting all the Unreal instances on the other mini PC. At least that's the intent. I still have to get some RAM and some hard drives to throw inside of these things, and I'll let you guys know when I do so that you can actually hop on and join the pre-alpha, and we'll try to get as many people we can testing this as possible just to see how much one of these can handle. And then I've also noticed that there are some cheap X99 platforms that I can get from AliExpress. Those have 16 physical cores, and I want to see how many instances those can handle. And they're only $100, so I'll buy one and test between the mini PC and that and see the benefits of both. But that is it. That is everything I have to show you all today. I've already applied to Epic Mega Grants. I haven't heard anything from them yet. Hopefully, after the holiday season, I'll hear back from them, and I'm really hoping they can offer me some good feedback. Holiday this year has been pretty stressful, but it's almost over. I think I want to focus a little bit more on the story over Christmas and hopefully come back with some footage to show you all. This is the last time you will see me until 2025. So again, have a great holiday. Thank you again for all the support this year. It means more to me than I think any of you know. I look forward to getting a chance to party with some of you in 2025. Remember to leave a like, comment on what you would like to see in 2025, and I'll see you all next year. Bye.